Welcome to the Tej Talks podcast. Forget the property celebrities. We speak to relatable people with fascinating journeys, just like you. Hosted by Tej Singh, we bring you news stories, life-changing deals, and expert advice every week.
On today's show, we have Aren and I. He is an ex-social worker / part-time fitness expert turned property investor. His purpose in life is to have an impact on the world, and he's using property as his vehicle to do this. He is a really good friend of mine, someone I see as a mentor. He currently has 2 residential buy-to-lets and is just completing on a 9-bed HMO. Hello, Aren. Welcome to the Tej Talks podcast.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm very well. I'm quite tired. So me and Aaron just went to the gym. If anyone doesn't know, and I mean, come on, 1,000 subscribers sitting right next to me. Aaron is a YouTube up-and-coming star. Yeah. So he can teach you things about the gym, and he can also teach us things about property. So that's why I've got him on the show. So Aaron, I know you've got quite a presence on Facebook. You post quite inspirational, motivational things often.
Yeah,
you definitely do. So tell the people listening, who were you before property? What were you doing? Because you had quite an interesting career and you're older than you look.
Yeah, I'm definitely older than I look. I'm not going to disclose my age right now, but I'm sure you can find out. So my career, it's like you said, it's unorthodox. It varies. So initially came from a grammar school, forced into a grammar school. No stereotypes there. But I went to grammar school and I did a degree in construction, project management. Okay. Which you'd think I'd enjoy project management and construction, which I don't really enjoy it, to be honest. But that's where I initially found my studying. And then through that, I did an 18-month placement working for Mott MacDonald, an engineering firm. Did some big projects there, with the Highways Agency. Got experience in project management. As soon as I graduated, the crash happened. So obviously getting a job back in construction was like a no-go. But prior to uni, I always had aspirations of being a boxer. So Rocky IV was my favourite film. Always wanted to, do some sort of boxing. I was always into fighting. I did martial arts as a kid. So I enjoyed that kind of aspect. So long story short, before uni, I wasn't allowed. Parents were like, no, study first, which has helped me. So in hindsight, I agree with what they said. But then when I come out after uni, I was 42 pounds heavier. All I knew how to do was drink vodka and eat kebabs.
Good skills at that age.
Absolutely. I was probably the best. I could teach you on that as well. So I still had a dream of becoming a boxer, and obviously I was out of shape and everything. So we foster children as well as a sideline. So my younger sister's adopted, and we've got 3 siblings who are really close to my heart. And throughout my uni career, I started getting very close to them. And Kyle, at that time, the young one, he's got autism, and he was only working half days. And my mum was studying as a health practitioner in the degree. So me thinking, let's do some negotiation here. I told my mum, if you carry on with your degree because you need another year, I'll look after the kids. So I'll be like Mrs. Doubtfire basically for a year, but let me go to boxing. So not worry about getting a job because of the crash and stuff. Yeah. So long story short, I went back into boxing, did that for about 18 months, looking after the kids, which really opened my eyes about how fortunate we all are. Even what we're doing now, we're able to, conversate, get stuff on the internet, and simple things that children can't do. So long story short, got into boxing, got selected for nationals at novice level. Then I took an injury in around August. I never recovered by the November. So I was like, okay, I'm 25, 26 now. I can't have another year of not earning no money. So I thought, okay, my degree is construction and project management. What can I do with it? Literally went on a couple of websites and I got a job in project management in London as a project manager. Enjoyed it. 2 years, met some great people, learned some more skills, became Prince 2 qualified and everything. More money than I knew what to do with. So coming from kind of humble background, I was just buying stupid shit.
In the big city,
Yeah, absolutely. It was I was just buying unbelievable. I was buying cars even though I was living in London. So there would be a car back home here, just sitting there, just so I could say I had a car.
For swag. Okay.
And yeah, I was doing stupid stuff. And then you get to a point where you're almost like after a few months, almost coming up to 2-3 years, I was like, there's got to be more to life than, getting pissed on a weekend and buying bottles just because you can and going shopping.
Yeah.
So long story short, I was like, what do I enjoy? I enjoyed fitness. So I got qualifications as a personal trainer, and I enjoy helping people, especially children who have come from, bad backgrounds, very, very bad backgrounds. So I was like, okay, I've got another idea. I want to become a social worker. And I'm kind of the person that if I get an idea, I'll just kind of run with it. I don't really procrastinate. I just jump.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not.
I've noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just kind of gung-ho. So I was like, Mom, I'm giving up my job. And at this point, I was getting married as well.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
The missus is obviously thinking she's marrying someone with a nice salary. Everything's going to be comfortable. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm a student again. And we met at uni as well. So
wow.
She was like, okay. I got a bursary for 2 years, studied as a social worker, became a social worker, got quickly into a job because of obviously my family experience. And then very quickly, within 3 months, I realised I'm not going to make the difference that I thought I was going to make. So naively, I was like, I'm going to change the world. And I was quite naive to think that I could go into such a big system and kind of change the world and lives of children who have basically suffered.
Yeah.
And that really like affected me because I was like, I've just wasted 2 years. I could have earned money. My wife's going to work, and you're getting all of these feelings, especially as a man, that you're not pulling your weight. So then long story short, bringing me to where I am now, I had quite a bad year last year. We had like 4 deaths in the family. Friend died, and it was kind of like, when you realise like life's too short, and we all go through that sort of procedure of let's live for today kind of thing. And I was at my uncle's funeral, and my cousin brother was sitting there. And for me, and this isn't no disrespect or anything, I always thought I was the intelligent one. I went to grammar school, and I've got all these student fees now. So in hindsight, I'm probably not. Whereas he kind of got married and he invested in property.
Okay.
And it was only then, speaking to him, he said the last 6 months prior to my uncle dying was the best years of best time he had, because he got to spend it with his dad. And it just kind of hit home that would I be able to do that if, God forbid, anything happened to my parents or my family and friends? Could I give 6 months of my time out? And the realization was I couldn't. And then property, I was like, well, how did you do it through property? Then we got talking, and he did it the old-fashioned way, buy-to-lets. And I think back then you can get like 125% mortgages. It seemed a lot easier. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it seemed easier. So he did it, and then that literally got me thinking. I was doing webinars then, and Progressive came up. And then I thought, I actually rang my mum, and I was like, Mum, there's a webinar. I think it was about 8 o'clock. So she's in her house watching this webinar. I'm watching it. And at the end of it, we're like, should we go to Masopi? Multiple streams of property income. And then we're like, brilliant, let's get 2 more tickets. So I thought, let's take my dad and let's take my wife, who are probably not like me and my mum, because we see an idea and we just jump. Yeah. They're a bit more like pragmatic. They'll think about it, weigh it up basically. So you need a bit of both. Yeah. Long story short, went into that. 16 months later, I am where I am today.
Wow. Okay.
Learned a lot, ups and downs.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But that brings me to where I am now.
And then, so I guess there's 2 things I pull from that. Is one, you spent a long time in education, hoping you could change the world. Mm-hmm. You had a big cost, right? Mm-hmm. And I think what a lot of people have in any business, from the smallest to the biggest businesses of the world, is the sunken cost fallacy, which is where you're like, oh, absolutely, I spent 2 years, all this money on it. Let's make it work. Let's force something. Let's be unhappy. Let's give out a crap product. But actually what you seem to have done is, you had that, which is normal, but you said, I'm still young. I've still got time left to live. Let me forget the cost. It's a cost. It's done. Cost of living. And carry on and do something important, which I think is a lesson that anyone in property or any business can take from you in that aspect. And obviously you discovered property through someone doing it and just mentioning it, which I think a lot of people do, right? It's just that mention. You think, oh, let me look into it, right?
And it's a real person. It's family. It's
someone you can trust,
It's not somebody on the telly trying to sell something. And just going back to your point, sunk cost fallacy, that literally was it. I was like, I don't want to be that guy who goes to a pub on a Friday and Saturday and talks about how shit their life is and job. So I'm like, I still felt old. I was like, I'm 29, 30. I was like, I'm giving my age here. and I still felt that, but then I was like, no, I'm not going to, would I rather suffer for the next 40, 50 years or just do something else? And I was getting people saying, oh, you're changing your career again. You're doing this again. But I had a bigger purpose, and I still have a bigger purpose in order to do what I want to do. And I just seen at that point, property, for me at that point, looking at it was like, okay, if I just work hard, it doesn't require any other sort of skills. Yes, education, but it's not like I have to be 6 foot tall to dunk a basketball, for example. So I just thought through hard work and the right education, getting the right people around me, maybe I can do it.
Okay, and then so you went to Masopi at Progressive. You went to the masterclass?
Yeah, so Masopi did their job. They sold me the masterclass and VIP.
Okay, so you
I
had the full education, right?
Yeah, that's it. I was going to be financially free when after 12 months. They sold everything and I thought, fantastic, I'm jumping on board. My parents were like, yeah, fantastic. My dad was loving it. I was like, going to have X amount of properties. So I thought, why not? And I literally remember at that time, I think I had about £12,000 in my account.
Okay.
Now, this is a joint account because I've got a wife as well.
Okay, so you spent that?
Yeah, so I was like, should we do it? And obviously, you know, I wouldn't be where I am without my wife today because she believed in me enough to think, okay, she's very sensible. So to her, 12 grand is kind of like a safety buffer. And when I was like, okay, I need to spend about £10,000 of that on this course and see where we go, she was straight away, yeah, fantastic, I believe in you.
Okay,
so we went to the back and we signed up, and yeah, the rest is kind of history.
And then, so tell me about your first property deal, because I believe it was before you had this education, right?
It was, yeah. So going back to when I was a project manager at Atos, I was spending more money than I knew what to do with, basically. And it got to the point where my mum was like, you're wasting money, let's put it into property. I knew nothing about property. I just thought at that point, if the tenant covers the mortgage, it's a fantastic deal. Yeah. So I was like, all right, then how much do you need? Just for a certain amount. We bought a property for it was about 115,000. Okay. Now, it was on the market for 125.
Okay, nice.
And knowing what I know now, it was from a motivated seller. So she had had a divorce, the husband had left her, moved in with another partner. And long story short is, we got on with her for ages. If anything, I mean, mum, if you meet her, she's a very caring person. So we were just sitting with her, empathizing with her and everything. And then she just said, like, I want to sell you the house. Like, give me an offer. And like, I would be like, 124,000. Do you know what I mean? 124.5 or something. And I think that's cheeky. At that point, my mum was went straight in, 115. It's all we've got.
Okay.
She accepted it. Now knowing what I know now, I'm thinking it should have gone even lower. But you don't know what you don't know.
It's true. It's
and
true.
It was local. And I'm going to be completely honest. I did nothing other than come and sign the papers with the broker and solicitor. My mum handled everything.
Okay.
I was just working in London, enjoying my life, thinking, okay, there's a bit of money there. I've got a property. That was it. And I never really thought nothing of it. Then when I got married, we had to sell that in order to move into this house. And we became motivated sellers. Again, not knowing what I don't know.
Yeah.
I sold it for 115. And at that point, they were going for about 140, 135.
Damn.
So I could have made like 20, 30,000. But because I was kind of like, I'm not going to get into property anyway. I want to become a social worker.
Of course.
I just sold it. Now I'm kicking myself because obviously there was quite a bit of equity there, but you don't know what you don't know, basically.
No, that's true. And so let's fast forward to where we are now. The term financially free is thrown about all the time. And it's different for everyone, right?
Absolutely.
Some people it's £1,000 a month, some people it's 10, some people it's 5. You know, I think what the average wage in the UK or London is like 27k a year. So let's take that as financial freedom. How close would you say you are to being financially free in your own opinion?
Okay. So I'd say I've got a deal at the minute which is going to take 12 months, going through planning and then refurb and then refinance. Upon completing that, I would have exceeded that.
Okay. And how long is that 12 months from when you first sort of started getting into property properly?
So you're looking at probably 26 months. Because 16 months after, where I am in this position, I'm completing on another property. That will give me a salary, I don't know, say 24, 25.
Okay.
But then the next one will really just start adding to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm technically after the next month or so, once legals and everything go through, financially free on a base salary of what would have got as a social worker. So I managed to replace my social work salary in 16 months. And
do you think you could have done it any quicker?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you knew you now,
I think I could do it in like 6 months now, knowing what I know now.
So I'll be doing it in 6 months, everyone, because I know Aren.
Of course, yeah. That's the aim.
I'm accountable now.
That's the aim.
So, in terms of your journey to get there, I think a lot of what we see in the media and Facebook is the positivity. But actually nowadays there is a lot more of that vulnerability and the realness coming through. Now, if people who know you will know about your project in Stoke, which we not meant to mention. But I want you to tell everyone really kind of briefly, like about this project and what went wrong, because it's good for people to know that yes, property can be forgiving. If you get a house in a good area, it will rent, it will potentially sell. But what went wrong? What did you kind of learn from that? And just to show people the real
of
side
course.
and the negativity that can happen in property.
So what went wrong in the property, and you want me to say it briefly? That's going to be difficult, but I'll try. So yeah, I brought a property at auction. Prior to that, I had viewed probably over 100 properties, and I'd kind of done like my facts and figures working backwards in terms of what I think is going to sell.
So you viewed 100 properties?
Yeah, over 100.
Before you bought one?
Before I bought one, because
okay.
I'd put loads of offers in and they're all getting rejected, but I'd literally... And I watched every episode that I could think of Holmes End of the Hammer. And if you're aspiring to flip properties, it's probably not the best show to watch
maybe not.
In hindsight. So, long story short, I brought it thinking it's going to achieve this, and I brought it away from home, Stoke. So it's about an hour away. What I quickly realised was it was probably the second worst house around that area. Second worst street, within that area. And then another mistake, I'll just run through them because I can literally reel these off. I trusted a builder straight away through a handshake. I ended up paying them like almost most of the refurb money initially. And knowing what I know now, if you're a reputable builder, you should have at least some sort of money in your bank account, at least to supply like basic materials and little things. And I think they saw me coming a mile off. So I got ripped off by the builder. They ran away with 7,500 something. I never sort of put their name out there, but if anyone's working in Stoke, feel free to obviously contact me because I don't want you to get burnt by the same person. And then just little stuff like I was project managing off this, thinking I was back at working at us where people they've got a salary, they're working to targets. This person doesn't care about me. So long story short, I'm asking for updates and he's like, everything's fine, fantastic. I'm like, brilliant, this builder is awesome. Very naive to it, thinking let's go find the next deal. So long story short, that actually took me over a year to sell. Wow. And the work should take about 4 weeks, knowing what I know now. I had ceilings fall down on me. I bought the wrong insurance initially, so for an extra £7 I would have been covered for water leakage. And you know what, during the winter one of the pipes burst and ceiling fell down, so knowing the kitchen is probably the most expensive part, lost money on that. I wasn't really viewing it as many times as I should have, like in the weeks. I was kind of just leaving it and waiting, almost being reactive. I made so many mistakes, but the beauty of it is it taught me a lot, because I could have easily come out of that and think this game isn't for me. And I had sleepless nights. It was making me ill. I was stressed, but I met a lot of good people from there as well. So the plumber came out because he actually felt sorry for me, because he was like, I see you as a nice person, but he's like, you're just too trusting. Like, because even with him, he'd say something. I say, yeah, I trust you. And he's like, why do you trust me? You don't even know me. And I'd be like, look,
I love that. Why do you trust me?
I'm a man of my word, and I just expect people to be the same. So long story short, he did some work for me afterwards as a favour. I had another favour called in through a friend. We got there in the end, but from potentially making 22,000 or something, which if I had, knowing what I know now, would have achieved, we end up breaking even on it. And that's through like refurb, holding costs, which people don't take. So council tax, the council didn't care that it was, nobody was living there. Insurance, refurbing it twice. And just obviously that's not even taking into account my time as well. But I'm grateful for it, because my next project, I made all that back within like 3 months.
Wow. So there's a huge lesson there. And actually, I did a video on it. I remember when we first sort of spoke. So it's on my YouTube channel. Check it out. I think what I'm getting from that is you have to do your due diligence first.
Absolutely.
You have to check comparables properly. If your building's a Victorian terrace, don't compare it to a new build detached.
Absolutely. And Google doesn't tell you that all the time.
And it does not, right? So Street View, using all the tools that are free to us, right? Secondly is being diligent on the during the process. So not trusting your builder, asking for pictures, asking for videos, visiting. Stoke is not far from it at all. And not trusting people to an extent until you can trust them, until you know they've
or
done
have
the
a
work
contract in place and outline everything. And I didn't even do that. I just literally handshake. I trust Jay. He seemed like a nice guy, and that's what it is.
But it's one of those things that you've learned from. As you've taken these 10, 15, 20 lessons, and now onto your next deal, like you said, you're not going to mess up, right? And I hope that's a lesson for everyone in terms of property can go wrong. He didn't lose money, but he lost opportunity costs. I lost stress,
loads of nights sleep. Do you know what I mean? And you almost think, especially when you go into it gung ho, and you've got your wife who's going to work every day, and you're thinking, I need to make a living.
Yeah, of course, it's that pressure.
You're like,
as well.
Don't worry, I'm going to make 22,000 in 6 months, and I'm going to move on to another one, and you're promising her the world, and then even your family as well. You're like, when I do X, Y, and Z, I'll look after you guys, and then all of a sudden you're like, actually, guys, I can't even look after myself at that point in time.
It's massive. And pressure, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm grateful for it. Like I would, if I had to go back, I'd kind of want that property. Because if for instance, that builder was fantastic and they did everything well, I would think this is so easy. And what I'd do is I'd probably get 100, 200,000 pound house and do the same thing. And getting ripped off on a 200,000 pound house as opposed to a 44,000 pound house in Stoke, it's going to hurt you in different ways.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Good. And then, so tell me about like the latest deal you've worked on or are completing on in terms of like the figures, the location, and if you did a refurb or if you just kind of bought a ready-made, good to go.
The one that's going through legals now is just a ready-made HMO. It's through a friend of mine who I met through property as well. He's an architect. Basically, I had a bit of money in the bank. Wasn't finding any deals that I could use it on. So as I say to all my investors and friends and family, is money in the bank is not serving you well. So long story short, I took half of what I had in the bank and I've just dumped it in a sort of like a buy-to-let HMO. It's a ready-made HMO. I've put about 40,000 in there. That's with legals, everything. That's
all in.
Like,
okay.
All in. It's a little bit less. It's about 39,000 something. All in. The ROI is 3.5 years, so it'll net about £1,000 a month.
Okay.
That's after all bills. There's 4 tenants in there currently. They've been there for like 2 to 3 years, all on 6 months ASTs. But basically, with the lady who I'm buying it off, we're doing a little handover as well, because I've never done HMOs. It was never part of my strategy, but for me, it was kind of like a bit of a no-brainer. And she's moving on to do serviced accommodation in Wales, so I had to understand why she was selling it as well, and not make the same mistakes. Am I just buying another shithole basically? And I've seen the property; it's fantastic. Tenants are nice. Not too far, Telford, around the corner as well. And I just thought it's a little bit of experience. And then moving on from that, we actually bought a 9-bed with some business partners. So it's kind of like, it's a good learning experience because I would have some experience on a 4-bed and obviously then coming to the 9-bed in 12 months time when everything goes through.
And that 9-bed is with Sunny Mahal, who's on my podcast as well, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. Good friend of mine, yeah.
Okay.
Well, brother. He'll kill me if I don't say that. He is. Yeah.
And so like, how, by the sounds of things, you're financing most of these deals with your own cash. So what, because obviously going to Progressive, you'll learn about other people's money and no money down. What are your views on, getting investors? Are you actively sourcing? Because I know I saw some of your Facebook statuses. Have you got investors? Where are you at in that sort of financial arena?
Yeah. So I'd say the last 6 months, so after my stock project, I was kind of like, I'm so glad I never used investor money because I'd made so many mistakes. Then my project afterwards where I made all that money back and some, and I've got an asset now round the corner, literally where we came from by the gym.
Okay.
I made it back and I was confident. Then I'd sourced a few properties and stuff and I was like, actually, I know the game now. And I've never asked for money, to investors or anything. Even my post is never a sort of, hey, let's work together. It's just basically if I can help you in any way. I now have a list of investors and friends and family have come to the forefront. And I'd say in the last 2 weeks, probably 70,000 we've used on projects now. And we're offering them 8% on the returns. I've got...
Over what period of time?
Generally 12 months. But we aim for nine months generally, but we always like a contingency because obviously, especially with friends and family as well. But then I've got a list of investors and I'd probably say about $500,000 has been spoken about. Whether that obviously comes to the forefront is a different story. But there's investors there now who are believing in the success that we've done. I think because I've been there and I've made the mistakes and I've learned from it, I hopefully come across as a bit more credible. And they can understand that I've basically learned the hard way. And now it's kind of I'm at a stage where I used to have a mindset problem thinking who would just give money. When you first go to Masopi and you're hearing people saying, use other people's money. I'm like, nobody's going to give you money. But then what happens is when you start to understand money and some people just enjoy their life and they have money in the bank doing nothing for them. If we can give them a return on that, then fantastic. And one of my good friends who's actually given us X amount of money, and when I posed a question to him, he said, when do I transfer? And I was like, you haven't even seen the house yet. And he's like, well, I'd put it on a horse for you. And it was nice to have that sort of relationship because I've got a lot of friends who would come out for that. And I remember 12 months ago when I first went into it, they were always sort of saying, let's jump on a deal. But for me, it was, let me just work it myself first. I had a bit of money. I said, let me play around with it, understand it. Because if I ever lose, say for instance, your money, it's going to hurt a lot more than my own. And I know some people say they won't look after somebody else's money as much, but I'm a bit different. I just wouldn't be able to sleep. If I was someone tenner or somebody's bought me a drink, the next day I feel like I have to get them and reciprocate that.
No, I'm the same. And how important do you think social media is in not asking for money, but attracting money?
Massive. I think if it wasn't for my Facebook posts, LinkedIn's helped me as well. It's attracted me to some very high net worth individuals as well. And I think it's just about being yourself. Don't try and mimic or be somebody else, because you can quickly tell if a post isn't that person. For example, you can pretty much, I do certain things in my post, like capital words and just certain things that distinguish me from, and I do it in a very conversational manner, similar to how I do my fitness posts. It's just basically who I am. And I think just be yourself. It's a people game. If people like you, they'll work with you. At the same time, I'm nowhere near where I want to be. I still see myself here. So for me, I'm looking always to work with people as well. If I can bring something to the table, whether it's my own money, whether it's my investors' money, a friend, a family, I'm always happy to work with other people as well.
Okay. Well, you and me are working together potentially on
absolutely,
yeah.
We're looking at a few deals. Absolutely, yeah.
And that came about from just, when did we meet each other? In May, right?
It was at Masterclass.
It was Masterclass in May, and we're already offering deals together. And that's just a trust, isn't it? And the friendship that forms from
we've all got
being human.
We've all got like I wouldn't say similar goals, but we've all got goals that are kind of the same in terms of we all want property to allow us to do certain things, choice and freedom.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the quickest way to do that is working
together. Absolutely.
100%.
I think coming from a recruitment background and a trading background, everyone is very, quite cutthroat in the sense that I'm not telling you where I get things from. I'm not helping you doing this. And I come into property, and I come into property and like people just lay out their business plans, the exact addresses of where they work, their gold mine areas. And I just think, what? Yeah. Like this is, and actually it's changed me as a person. It's made me a way nicer and more open person, because as a recruiter I was like, I use LinkedIn, cool. I wouldn't share my resources, but now I'm like,
abundance.
Take everything. That's the
way it should be.
And I've actually learned that from you, because I remember at Masterclass you were like, look, you're going to hear things and think, oh, how on earth is that even going to work? How am I going to get people's money? Like, it's unbelievable. And you're like, Tej, listen. And you didn't really know me. We just spoke on Facebook. But you said to me, Tej, look, leave your like skepticism and your like, your realism at home. Just listen, take it all in, sink in the atmosphere and go with it.
Absolutely.
And honestly, that has changed me as a person.
Fantastic.
And I don't think you know that. So thank you, because,
Oh, wow. That's nice
no, honestly, because I took that and I just thought, all right, let me listen to what they're saying. I took it all on board, went home, did my research, clarified things, made things more sort of realistic to what I understand. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, wow. Brilliant. And then I became a nicer person, mate. So thank you.
I made you a nicer person.
Brilliant. It's not easy to make Londoners nice.
So. But what you've just done there is, that's something that took me probably 8 months to do. Not the nicer person. I've always been a nice person, like yourself. But the fact that I was skeptical and I had the wrong mindset. Not that I was ever holding back. I would always give, but I had the wrong mindset in terms of people won't give me money. Yes. And then when I stopped thinking about the money and thinking about actually how can I help someone, and it all comes down to solving someone's pain. So if somebody's got money in there and they're seeing, I don't know, whether they're in stocks or crypto or whatever they're doing, and it's not moving for them. But then you're like, hold on a minute. I can give you, say for instance, 40 grand. I can give you 8% on that, rolled up over 12 months. That's technically giving them an extra £266 a month. Now that's paying for your Sky, your phone bill, and potentially your electric from doing nothing. Lease, yeah. Exactly. And you're getting your money back as well.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of how I look at it in just terms of like helping as many people. And I don't look for money, but I don't fret over it now. So when we putting offers down, when I speak with Sonny and we're putting offers down on stuff that's like £1 million, I'm not worried about it, because if the deal stacks, the money will follow. And I truly believe that.
And that's really important what you just said. I think for me that mindset shift came quite quickly, because I had people like you and like Josh Asquith and other people that are going to be on the podcast who are getting this money or who are experiencing it. And I said, hold on, there's so many people in the world. There's so many people with money that are just, their money's just sitting there. They're twiddling their thumbs thinking, 1.5% from the bank, 2.5% inflation, I'm getting poorer by the year.
Exactly.
What do I do? And they have no clue, right? It's about helping people with any business.
Yeah.
All the biggest businesses and the popular ones and the ones that you would name off the top of your head solve meaningful problems. And yes, our problem is helping people make money, but a lack of money is one of the biggest problems in the world for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
So no, that's really interesting, and I'm glad you said that. It is a mind shift. And even now when I'm offering on properties, I don't know if I have the money for some of them. Yeah. I have proof of funds, but I don't know if I have the rest. But I think
I've offered without having the money, and then I found it on the weekend. So you will think creatively. If you put your back against the wall, you will literally think, shit, now I need to get to work. And you will. Otherwise, there's an element of being comfortable.
Yeah, because you're
that's probably the worst place to be.
Oh, always. I think, it's like purgatory in the middle of that comfort.
Yeah.
And so you've kind of done buy-to-lets, HMOs. Some people might call it vanilla. Some people might say it's their core strategy.
Yeah.
What are you doing next? Because I know you, me and Sonny viewed this for me, it was a really complex, really interesting commercial. It was a commercial unit, right? With residential that was... It had a lot of potential. It had a lot of potential. Maybe not in terms of converting it because of what Sonny's planner said, but like what sort of things are you looking to move into now?
Just bigger and better. I feel like my journey has literally gone step by step, kind of like what they teach at Progressive. Probably, I haven't planned it that way, but it's just the way it's materialised. So I've done the single lets, the flips, got a small HMO now, got a bigger HMO. Now I want to look at the more exciting stuff. I want to see if I can remember any of my uni stuff, construct something. So I'm looking at sort of land, and I just spoke to you earlier as well about there's literally half a mile from here. There's derelict pubs and things like that to convert them into flats. Because the way I see it is the amount of time and effort you put into one house and refurbing it. If you just get something bigger for the same stress, a couple of extra zeros, it's going to benefit everyone in the long run.
And your profit will be a couple of zeros as well, right?
And then through that, I can help more people, help people that are on board as well. And build a team. So that's kind of where I'm looking at now, just bigger and better things, really. And
I think with bigger and better things, you're putting this, a similar amount of effort in, but you're building more housing for the UK, which apparently needs hundreds of thousands of houses extra every year.
Absolutely.
And if you're taking a pub, you're taking like a community thing and reusing it, but still keeping it as a community. So that's really interesting. And in terms of your area, let's say you invest sort of all over, right? But let's say the Midlands is maybe your sort of bread and butter. And this is a really broad question, so you can answer it however you like. What are your thoughts on the market here?
So where I live, literally you can go that way, half a mile that way, halfway that mile that way, or even backwards, and they're very different places. So you've got probably family homes more here, people that own their own homes towards like say Walsall area. If you go towards Wolverhampton, you have in some areas the same, but then you've got a very high rental. Dudley's kind of similar as well. So I kind of know like the yields that you can expect from them, the prices of the average houses. Wednesbury, I'm familiar with it. I've lived here my whole life. But you rent a house all day long. Like that's not a problem. I'm finding flips are very difficult. I think the competition within Birmingham, Wolverhampton is very, very high. So you probably need to look up in other places. Again, with land as well, I find that it's quite competitive, very competitive. There's a lot of developers on the ground always looking. But houses are houses. Providing you don't buy too many Stoke houses, you're always going to be better off, basically.
Stoke is still a good area to invest in.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got nothing against Stoke, but I won't be ever going there again.
That's fair enough.
That's just me personally.
And so what I hear from pretty much every Birmingham investor I speak to, every agent I speak to, and every property I see that seems to go on Rightmove and then be off a few days later, is that there's a lot of money coming to Birmingham because of HS2, because of the big city regeneration plan. They're putting millions or billions into redoing Birmingham. It's going to be amazing. I mean, I love Birmingham as is. That there's a lot of money, let's call it London money, coming in. I haven't got London money, everyone listening. Just FYI, I've got Birmingham money.
You already won.
I will. They're coming in and they're just seeing properties at, they're not in good condition. They're, perfect for what we want, BRR model. And they're offering above market because they can, and because they turn around and say, that's how much a parking spot costs in London.
Absolutely.
It's cheap. And then you and me are like, but that's not how much it's worth. And we get driven out. So, like, apparently this has been happening for a year or so.
Yeah, it has.
How long do you think it will last? Or do you think it's going to carry on till HS2 and beyond?
I couldn't give you an answer, to be honest, on that. I think there'll be a correction in the market. And I think maybe that might change certain things. But I think for a Londoner, even if they're overpaying slightly more than what we'd probably pay here, they're still better off than investing probably in London.
Yeah, for sure.
But it depends on strategies, because one of my friends, he's buying a property in London, and we went through the figures and everything, and I just said, why are you buying it? Like, try and understand the reason before why you're actually doing it. And he says, it's just basically retirement. So I said, you're probably better putting money into a London property for capital growth, because the way I see, and this is just my opinion, you're going to probably make more money on capital growth as opposed to, your £200-300 cash flow over time.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you don't depend on that cash flow right now, go ahead. Because I could have found him similar properties here, but I said you might not get that capital appreciation. So I think it just depends really. But there are a lot of Londoners coming here who are inflating the prices, and when I'm putting offers down, the agents are laughing because obviously they're getting higher prices.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm not going to pay what I don't think it's worth. If that makes sense.
No, that's interesting. I spoke to an agent. I won't say who they were, but they said, we don't like this sort of, these Londoners coming in and paying overpriced. They're like, we make more money off it, but actually we try and sell them to first-time buyers because we want people to actually live here.
Of course.
And it's an interesting one because I think as investors, we potentially are also selling to first-time buyers. If we're buying an absolute wreck, we'll get it done cheaper and better quality than your average person who's not an investor, and sell it to them for the right price. And I think London is an interesting one because a lot of people say there's no money to be made there, it's too expensive. Yeah, on buy-to-let it is, in terms of yields. But there's rent-to-rent HMO, there's rent-to SA, there's management, there is title splitting of things.
Which is something I'm looking into as well, yeah.
And I think it depends also on your investors, because if you've got investors who have hundreds of thousands of pounds, cool, come to the Midlands and North. But if you meet someone who's got millions or tens of millions, which people do,
yeah, absolutely,
then just invest in London, because it's all about what your funds are.
Absolutely.
But London has so much potential, and I've only just realised that.
I think we briefly touched on it yesterday as well.
Yeah, and
there's always a way. It might not be, if you're just solely focused on one particular strategy, yes, it might not work in your area and you might need to look somewhere else. But there's definitely a strategy that will work in basically any area. I believe that. And
your deals, it sounds like a lot of them come from your networking or just being human, basically, by being friends with people. Like, would you say that most come from that, or come from agents, or where's your... Because deal sourcing is quite...
people. Just from people who just like, oh, you're into property. And since I've been telling people what I do, it's literally like, oh, Aaron's a property guy. And that's what that was always my aim. But initially when I started, I had the wrong mindset that I was thinking, in 5 years' time, I want to be the property guy, as opposed to acting like the property guy now.
Yes.
And that's something I'd certainly recommend to people. If they're serious about this game, when you first go into it, tell everyone. Just tell everyone.
Tell everyone you're a property
you probably still know more than the average person, especially if you've gone to like a course or even like Masopi free training. You tend to learn a lot more than just the average person. So believe in yourself, sell yourself, obviously don't lie. And if you know the places that you can look for the information, so if somebody asks you a question, you can quickly find it out, that will hold you in good stead. So since I've been doing that, it's just literally just through relationships basically. People are like, I'm eager to work with you, here's a deal, and I'm like, okay, fantastic. And then what I would always try and do is reciprocate that in some way.
Yes.
That's something that that's just my own thing that I feel like I owe something back. I completely
agree. Yeah. I think you always have to help people. And an example of your knowledge thing. So my friend wants to set up, I think I might have told you about it, set up a company where he buys land and he builds sort of housing on it that's made from, I think he said mud. I don't think he's sure what he's doing yet. But, made out of materials that are non-standard construction, that are better than bricks and mortar for cost, for efficiency, for all this stuff. And he was like, it's going to be great. And I said, oh, cool. So your target market is like first-time buyers, right? Or just homeowners, or maybe investors. He goes, yeah. And I said, I think you need to stop, because mortgage lenders won't lend on non-standard construction, especially if you're making it out of this funky stuff. And he was like, what? Yeah. I was like, you need to stop the business. Speak to a surveyor or someone and say... And he was like, whoa, thank you so much. How did you know that? And I said... Everyone in my network has told me this, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's super important.
Yeah.
So, Aaron, I've come to the last part of the show, sadly. We are going to do a quick fire round, a 3x3, right? Okay. A 9-tip round. So, the first one I want to ask you is, what are your top 3 tips for new people in property investment?
Okay. Judging by my experience, I'd say firstly speak to an accountant and a broker. Just to understand your situation. So I've purchased houses, my wife's purchased houses, and we've probably done it the wrong way. So for instance, we put one on her name where it could have been beneficial to have it in my name, high tax brackets. At the same time, I bought one and sold one. If she was on it, capital gains allowance. So there's little things that I'd certainly recommend. Whereas, like I said before, I just kind of jump straight in and just like, I'll figure it out later. Maybe just spend like a few weeks getting to know people so they understand your circumstances.
Okay.
Another thing is, try and help people. Work with as many people as you possibly can. You're going to get more deals. You're going to get more ways of basically improving your life and their life, and you're going to have a better network basically. And I think in this game, you need to surround yourself with those kind of people as well. So that's probably my next tip. And then finally, I would say is change your mindset. So that might be coming through, again, the network, or it could be what you read, or it could be how you push yourself on a daily basis. Whatever it is, your mindset needs to be thinking almost like that person. So if I can just quickly go to like a fitness analogy, if you want a six-pack, for example, you can't act like a guy with, a stomach out here. You've got to act like the guy who's got a six-pack. So what would you do? You eat right, you train right, you sleep right. You do all the things before you get there. So you've not necessarily got the six-pack from day one, but if you start acting like that person, you will achieve it. So that's kind of probably the hardest bit for me.
Yeah.
Because you do have days where you feel like absolute crap. But if you can literally just try and think of the person that you want to become and the things that you want to do in order to help people and stuff and live by that, I think that will certainly help.
Fantastic. And then you mentioned reading.
Yeah.
So what are the top 3 books or audiobooks
Okay.
that have, assisted your property journey and development journey?
Okay, so I think The Chimp Paradox was a brilliant audiobook book.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to do with property, but it's about understanding myself. So I've suffered with like binge eating and certain things, and it really brings into focus on
the
your
guy
habits.
with the 6-pack says he binge eats.
Yeah, then I starve myself for ages. That's the key. Another one was The Values Factor. I think it's Dr. John D. Martini. That was fantastic because when I was into property for the first time, I was thinking, I don't want to do this for the money. As you know, my story is not. But then when you can link it to your values and the fact that we touched on earlier, being able to help people, house people, help investors, help friends and family, that was really important. And then the last one is it's a bit of a cheat, but I think anything by Grant Cardone. He's a bit of a Marmite person, but like be obsessed or be average, sell or be sold. He's kind of like, it's all about action. So all this fluff aside, you've just got to work really, really hard.
Yeah.
Yes, you can leverage stuff later on in life, but I haven't got to where I got to without working like countless hours, and it's a numbers game. I've had to learn property. I didn't know what plastering was like 2 years ago. Do you know what I mean? So I've had to literally learn the simple things and just put extra hours in as opposed to everyone else. So I'd say that's important.
That's interesting. I sort of jump in there, but I just think Grant Cardone, as you say, is like, he's hustled hard and kudos to him. He's incredible. What he's doing is amazing. I just find him so American. Like what he's about action. I think if I ever need to kick up the backside, I will put him on just to be like, do it, man. Believe in yourself. Like Gary Vee. But I don't take any useful content from them whatsoever. I've learned one thing from Gary Vee. The rest is just this Americanism of just do it, man. Believe in yourself. Stop making excuses, which is cool.
Yeah.
But I just like the meat and the content. So for me, I passionately don't take much from them. But again, it's a different...
absolutely. For me,
thing.
when I just took the fact that he just worked really hard and I was able to relate that to myself, and I was thinking, okay, if I just work really hard and do the stuff like he says he used to drive past loads of viewings, loads of houses, constantly putting off the little things that he talked about briefly in his books, I was doing myself, and then slowly I could kind of relate to it. But everyone's got their own sort of style. But for me, he definitely gave me a kick up the arse.
He has definitely done that in the past as well. So, and finally, I know you listen to podcasts a lot.
I love podcasts.
Firstly, what's your favourite podcast?
Other than yours.
So that's cool. We clarified mine's number 1. But if you had to pick top 3, excluding TED Talks,
okay,
what would it be?
I'd say the MFCEO. And I can't say what that stands for, but I'm sure you know what it is.
Assume.
That's by Andy Frisella. I think he's an amazing entrepreneur again. He speaks about the truth. So he's not selling stuff on how to be successful. He actually is successful.
He's very aggressively selling the truth.
Absolutely.
Very aggressive.
Yeah, but I just love his stuff and the way he comes through it. And I can always resonate with anything that he says because he speaks the truth. Not every day is good. People might see my post and think, oh, this guy's living a fantastic... It's not always like that. So that's number 1 at the minute. I love Eric Thomas. I've always loved Eric Thomas. I've been to see him and I just love what he stands for. Not so much from just a motivational standpoint, even the way he is with his wife and his family. And that's very important to me as well. So how you treat your wife and everything is just as important as with your family. And then the other one that's probably given me the most value is Impact Theory, Tom Milieu. I just think his interviews are fantastic. I think he's one of the best interviewers. He's had some great guests like David Goggins on there, Lewis Howes, all like top people in their fields, and he interviews them and he extracts like points that not a normal interviewer would probably do. And at the same time, he's massively successful. He's come from being very lazy, which he admits. He's co-owns Quest Nutrition, so he's like $1 billion company, and he's just fantastic. So they're probably the ones that I listen to the most, but I've got like a list of 30. And obviously yourself as well.
Of course.
Which I listened to. It was actually the last podcast I listened to yesterday. So
good. I hope you subscribed and downloaded and liked and all the things you've got to do.
Everything.
Amazing. So Aren, this has been really interesting. I think we've spoken a lot about mindset and belief and the kind of, I guess, the emotional side of property investment as opposed to the pure figures, which is always good to cover because I think you're, by the sound of your podcasts and books, you're very heavy on that side. Yeah. So, look, dude, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Let's hope these deals we're working on pull through.
Absolutely.
And I'd love to get you back on the show in a year or so and Maybe we can sit in your Lamborghini then and do it.
Saying that, I don't think I'd get a Lamborghini, but yeah, we'll sit in whatever I got. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Cheers.
If you like this podcast, connect with Tej on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube for more great content.